What if you could identify fraudulent online users before they commit fraud? Mary Haskett is the CEO and co-founder of BeehiveID, a technology that's helping online merchants stop fraud before it happens.
My name is Mary Haskett, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of BeehiveID. BeehiveID is a company that does fraud prevention. We're like Carfax, but for people. So we have an algorithm that tells online merchants who their fraudulent accounts are before they've had a chance to commit fraud. There are so many hurdles. For me personally, I think the biggest hurdle came when I was in college, and I actually started skydiving. And the hurdle was just not believing big enough, not thinking big enough. I mean, I was sort of raised, intentioned to think, maybe if everything goes really well, you'll get a college degree and you'll have a job in management. And, that was the very traditional, comfortable path. But the idea that you could tackle some audacious goal and just go for it was just certainly not, in the DNA I grew up with. And it wasn't until I learned to skydive in college that I stopped and went, wait a minute, I never in a million years thought that I could jump out of a perfectly good airplane, and I could. So what else is there out there that I can do that I don't think I can do? And it made me far more willing to go try audacious things and to risk failure and to do pretty much everything that I'm doing now. Could never have happened had I not taken that giant leap way back then. I think for me, just my nature is to sort of be that control freak who wants to have their finger in every pie. And as an entrepreneur, it's just not possible. There is so much that has to be done so quickly that you have to develop a team and build out this group of people that you can depend on and use resources and just, say, okay, you do that and I'm not going to pay attention anymore. And it was really hard for me to do that at first. At the very beginning, I wanted to be in control of everything. I wanted to make every decision. I wanted to make sure it was all done right. And it actually was not making sure things were going right. It was making sure that things were taking a very long time. It was making sure that the people I was working with were getting frustrated. And so for me, the biggest obstacle was learning how to kind of take a giant step backwards and learn how to be the manager of a team and trust them to do their work and not try to do everything myself. I think this is probably the best time to start a company. There are so many resources out there that are amazing. But I think for us, we applied and were accepted into this Techstars Accelerator program. And it was the 3 months was amazing, which I thought it would be. What I didn't expect was that forever after, you're part of that network. And it is a tremendous resource. This kind of goes back to the other one, learning how to depend on other people, ask questions, learn from what other people have done. It is a go-to resource for any question I have, any introduction I need. I mean, it's an impressive and amazing resource, and we're very happy to have it. It's a great question. I think, they talk about the roller coaster in a startup land, and, the abyss comes frequently and many, many times. There's not just one. Right now, we're right at that crossroads. We started out with an algorithm that was an idea, and the process of developing it into something that really works, verifying it, knowing that it works, that's very exciting. And now we're turning that we're right at the point of turning that into revenue and building out a company that can scale. And my background is more of a consulting background, and I'm very comfortable writing very elaborate proposals. We've had to turn around and learn how to sell and reach out to customers in a very different way. And just that complete unfamiliarity, I haven't been this much of a beginner at something probably since college. And so that's been a very difficult thing for us to sort of get. And we're still working on it, but we're getting it. But for a while, we just sort of stood on the edge of the cliff going, okay, we know we have to jump, we know what we have to do. And it was really hard to just start. I'm an entrepreneur because at my heart, I am a control freak. I really, I see what I want and it's like, this is how it needs to be and I want to make that happen. And to me, that's the fun part of it, is that early stage. I'm not the person to run, IBM or any of these really large companies. Taking that idea and saying, I think this is possible, but I'm not sure, and turning that into something that works, and we can do it consistently, we can do it with a high degree of accuracy, we have worked out all of these problems. That's the most fun part. I am happy that we have, our funding and revenue. Those things are important, But if I were to win the lottery and not need money, I would still be doing this because to me it is so much fun. It's an act of creation. This particular business, it's been a long time coming. My last of this, I've started multiple companies. My last one was a training company, and so we were developing large-scale interactive training and ended up doing work for the Department of Defense, doing large-scale national biometric identification systems. So I brought a team to Iraq, and we built up this team, and we were working with the locals and doing these really cool projects that were really making a difference, and I just felt privileged to be there. And eventually I sold my company to a defense contractor, started working in that world and managing those projects and getting a lot of expertise in identity. And after a couple of years in that world, I realized, I really am a small company person. Defense, it's amazing. They do a lot of things, but it's just not structured, to suit me. And I knew I wanted to do something smaller. And so the thought was, okay, given all this expertise that we've acquired, in biometrics and identity and all of these different things, what can we do with that would really, be interesting and would make a difference? And actually, we tried something else first that was more of a consumer play, and just thought, I don't have the resources to go out and do something, that's that big. I really need something that I can sell to businesses. It needs to be B2B. So we learned the hard way, dropped that one, and now we're here. But just looking, and this is part of the Techstars project, they have you just do customer discovery. And so we had a slightly different idea. We started calling people up and going, well, would you pay for this? And the answer was always, I think it's really cool. I don't know how I would use it, but I'm sure somebody else could use it. I thought, that is not the really overwhelmingly encouraging answer I'm looking for. But talking to them, they all had fraud problems. They all had problems caused by just, I'm doing business with total strangers on the internet. And some of them are not honest people and they're taking advantage of me. Doing business with total strangers when I don't know who they are is turning out to be a problem. And we thought, hey, that's a problem we can help with. And that was really the core of BeehiveID. Well, it's interesting. Right now, if you want to prevent fraud, there's some very traditional tools, browser fingerprinting and IP geolocating, all of these things, but they're pretty heavy-handed. And the big surprise to me when we were doing all of our customer interviews is that, okay, fraud's a problem, but more than that, what you have to do to prevent fraud is also a problem because it's friction. It's expensive. It's tedious. If I have to get up and go get my driver's license and make a copy of it and send it, if I have to answer intrusive questions about the property or my car or whatever, some percentage of them just go, I don't want to buy this that badly, and they leave. And so that friction to the transaction is as much of an issue as fraud. And they're willing to accept some amount of fraud as just the cost of doing business. So for us, it was all about coming up with a very low friction, low touch, easy way to help prevent fraud. And so it's one click. We're not asking nosy questions. We're not getting into anybody's, they don't have to do much of anything. One click and we're done. We can give a score and tell the customer, yes, these people are who they claim to be, or it's a fraudulent account. Well, I think it's that act of creation. We're trying to, it's like watering a seed and you watch it grow and you see little every day different things have happened, and some days the plant's wilting, and you have to do something, but just that feedback of watching something grow is incredibly rewarding to me. It's definitely almost like art. You get to see it progress and you're seeing things change and happen, and I have this vision and I'm trying to realize it, and I want to make this thing that was a concept a year ago, just something we were talking about. I want to see this out in the world, people using it, saving money, being protected because of something that my team built. I just find that very exciting and energizing. I hope this isn't a cheesy answer, but honestly, my mother is very inspirational to me. In a time when in her family, the boys went to college and the women were expected to go get married, she instead became a stewardess because college was not an option, and that was something that she could do. And it's hard for me to realize this now, but being a stewardess was considered to be kind of racy and maybe not something the family talked about. I mean, again, this is hard to imagine today, but she went through without a college education, became a banker, went back to college at the same time I was going to college. And I watched her, build a career for herself with all of those obstacles, and she didn't let anything slow her down. Women didn't do that, didn't matter. She did it anyway. And so looking at her life and where she started, I mean, again, I don't think I would have the audacity to attempt some of the things had I not had that model growing up of this woman who just said, yeah, women don't do that, but you know what, I'm doing it anyway.